Hi, I'm Michelle Olivier, and you're listening to Hey, I Want Your Job, the podcast that looks at amazing jobs and what it takes to get them. Hi, and welcome to Hey, I Want Your Job. And today I have Shirley, who has a job that so many people, she's one of the first guests I've had that like small children say, when I grow up, I want to be this thing. So Shirley, tell me, what is your job title?
I am a flight attendant with American Airlines.
That is amazing. Okay. And so I think I know what you do. Everybody has a definite impression of what they think you do.
Mhm.
Tell us, what do you actually do? What do you think you do for a living, Shirley?
What do I think? I'm a glorified uh, model at 35,000 feet. I think that's what people think in their mind. But the reality of it is, really, truly, I'm only there to transport people to their destinations, and I'm only there for safety reasons. But people think I'm like the sky enforcer. People think like I'm supposed to be policing everybody on the plane and I'm everyone's mother and I'm supposed to tell this person you can't do this and you can't do that, where I'm not there. I'm going to tell you in a minute what people have approached me and said, especially during this pandemic. You're going to laugh. One woman was like, the guy next to me is coughing. I wanted to be like, bitch, what?
What do you want me to do about that, lady? And I think also, like, you must just wear so many hats because people think that you're a nurse, that you're the police, that you're like customs, you're also a bartender, you're like all of a chef, like all of the things, right? And yet,
Keep on the gate agent.
yes,
I'm possibly even the pilot. One guy asked me, do you fly the plane every now and then?
yes,
I
they
mean,
just
just
let us
keep
come
on
up and
adding.
anybody can go. Would you like a tour? That seems like a safe plan. People are so fucking stupid sometimes, Shirley. It beggars belief. And so help me God, I don't have to deal with like the population at large in my job because we deal with people, but like it's people who are like with it enough to know they need a resume and that like theirs is not good. So you've already taken out
Exactly.
a bunch here at the bottom. Do you know what I mean? You get
Exactly.
everybody because everybody flies. So
Hmm.
that's crazy. All right, so let's back up. First of all, you said about COVID, y'all had a rough 2020.
We
A
did.
rough 2020.
We did.
Are things better?
Things are getting much better now. COVID impacted the aviation industry extremely. I mean, we went from billions of dollars of money we've had to, from COVID hit like in March, by April, within like a month, we lost everything because people wasn't flying. How does the airline make their money? When people book their flights. That's how we make money, from bookings. That's it. There's no other way that I mean, there's other ways. I shouldn't say that, but that is a 90% of how the airline makes money. So yes, we was extremely impacted from, I would say, March when it hit, because we had to downsize an extreme amount of people, even me myself. I took time off just because of literally the world was falling apart. And I felt I had to pick my family over my job. And my job gave me the ability to be able to stay home. And I made that choice. And luckily enough, I have a partner and I was able to do that. Not everyone can do that, but I was out of work from May to January intentionally, voluntarily. I took time off because the company offered it to us. Why? Because they weren't making money. There were too many of us. There are 26,000 flight attendants within, American Airlines being the largest airline and also a mainline company, along with, because it's American, United, and Delta. They're the three mainline companies, American Airlines being the largest. So we have 26,000 flight attendants throughout all the bases that we have. That's a lot for us to lose that much money. We just recently now in March, it was a whole year that impacted us. In March, now the flying is picking back up. Now we're starting to make money back again. So, those P2P loans have helped us out extremely. And now the company is starting to be able to pay that money back and make moves again. But yeah, COVID impacted small businesses, aviation industry. I
Mhm.
think they were hit hard. Restaurants.
Yeah, I do a lot of work with the hospitality. There's a nonprofit group called Project Save Hospitality that they're like same kind of thing. So during COVID, because you've been flying again since January, and the vaccine has only recently been out.
Mhm.
So have you at any point felt unsafe since COVID?
No, you know what? I took the time off because I felt like at that moment I needed to. There was a lot going on in the world, a lot of unsurety. There wasn't a lot of flying going on anyway, so I would have most likely been home. Do I feel unsafe? No, but I think because naturally, Michelle, I'm the type of person I don't allow myself to become so extremely anxious about things I can't control. So I started flying again in February and I'm back on the line like nothing ever happened. I just pretty much go to work wearing my mask. No, I don't feel unsafe. Uh, people, I know people come on the plane feeling unsafe, and I have to reassure them that it is okay. I just had a conversation with a passenger and I had to let her know because she hasn't flown in a year and she was unaware that the middle seat rule had gone out the window like almost 7 8 months ago, but she wasn't aware of that. She only last knew when she heard that, oh, airlines are going to leave the middle seat open. That was several months ago. So
Mm.
she approached me and she was shocked that we had a full aircraft. We was on a A321 that seats a total of 181 people with 170 in the back. And she was flabbergasted that the whole airplane was full. And I had to let her know that that has long been gone. These aircrafts have been full now since March.
Mhm.
They've started picking back up again. And I had to reassure her to let her know that it was okay. And she was like, isn't the airline worried about lawsuit? Like, at first, I wanted to say, you know what, lady, are you really having this conversation? And this is all I'm thinking in my mind
Sure.
because this is some of the crazy things that's approached to me. Michelle, this is a simple conversation because it's been even wilder than this. And she says, isn't the airline worried about, lawsuits and stuff? And I said, well, ma'am, I understand your concern. And, we are living in trying times. Me trying to be professional, Shirley,
Yeah.
and myself, this woman is probably just ignorant, but not ignorant in a bad way. She just really, truly doesn't understand what's going on. And the world is literally picking back up again, just in a modified version with these masks. And I said, you do have a choice of flying. You have to remember this is a commercial airline. They're not catering to any of these passengers out here. We're safely trying to transport you to your destination. So I know your concern and your worry, but just like the airline tells us as workers, you have to take care of yourself. And that's going to have to also go for you. You have to take care of yourself. If you feel that unsafe, there are other flying options, such as a personal jet, a helicopter. There, I don't know what your financial means are. And I literally had to tell her this because it was like, what are you asking me? And what are you telling me? And what
What
are
is
you
it you want
looking
me
for
to
me to
do,
say?
lady? Clear
You
out these other 180 people for you? Yeah.
I think people forget it's a commercial airline. We are not catering to every individual people in that seat. You pay a fee to be transported to your destination, no more, no less.
I agree. And so, I mean, so I will say my husband and I have talked about because we're about ready to kill our children at this point.
Ah, girl, I know.
We're just like, we're done. And, you keep hearing about all these places that are like, come back, come back, come back. And there's like these great deals. And then he's like, oh, that's a lot of people in a metal can getting
Yeah.
shot through the air. And he's like, and like, if we were back at the middle seat being left, the low number of people on the airplanes, we'd be all over it. But we know that that's not where it is. And so, like, we know that we're crazy about this, Shirley. Don't get me wrong. We're self aware, right? Like,
Mhm.
we're fully vaccinated. It is not going to get any safer than where it is for us.
Yeah.
But last year was scary as hell. And
Hmm.
so we're just like emotionally working through our shit. But that's why we're not buying plane tickets and making ourselves your problem, right? Like,
Exactly. And you know what I tell people, even the larger people,
mhm,
because people do have an option of buying more seats. And I
mhm,
don't think they ever think about that. If you feel as though you need as much space as you need on that aircraft, honey, the world is yours. If you wanted to buy out the whole plane, you could do that if you can financially afford it. And that commercial aircraft can transport you to wherever you need to go because you just bought the whole plane. If you need a whole row, buy the 3 seats. All you got to do is we'll know that you've purchased a whole row. You could also let us, hey, flight attendant, these 2 seats here are mine. No one can sit here. There are options. I think as human beings, we love to complain. We just need to complain. You are obviously are an intelligent person, and you and your husband are looking at all the factors. And what are you not going to do? Exactly what you said. You're not going to make your problem my problem. People don't think about that shit. Michelle, they don't think about that shit. There are so many
no.
other options they can look into. Buy a whole row. That way you don't have to worry about anybody. Buy the front row. If you don't want somebody sitting in front of you or the back of you, there are so many options available to you. These tickets are so cheap. I don't know how cheap they are. People are like gloating. Can you afford to buy 6 seats? Buy them. You know what I'm saying? Buy them if they that cheap. I've heard people buying tickets for like $28. If they that cheap,
Buy the whole row and quit being
buy
my
the whole row and shut the hell up.
friend.
You don't got to worry about nobody sitting next to you. Buy the whole damn row.
So, okay. So in non-COVID times, because you touched on a couple of things there that, like, a lot of these problems are not new to COVID, right?
No,
People are
no,
assholes 24/7. They didn't need a pandemic to be an asshole.
you're right.
Um, so in your space, right? We all know the list of things that people bitch about
Mhm.
the plane. What do you get frustrated about for your like for them and for yourself? Like if I gave you a magic crayon and said, "All right, Shirley, you get to go in and fix it." What would you change about commercial air travel right now?
Can I have more than one?
You just get the one crayon for now, but you can do whatever you want with it. Go nuts.
Hmm. Oh my God. I have so many. I have to think about in my bucket. Which one am I going to pick?
You can put fewer people on the plane, you can make seats bigger, you can make aisles wider, you can put beds in. I don't care. Go nuts. What do you want to do?
As simple and as stupid as this is going to sound, being the type of person that I am, I would put placards all over the plane. This is not your home. Please respect my office space. I know it's stupid, but that is exactly how I feel.
I bet.
Majority every day, I would put placards. This is not your home. Please respect my office space. This is not your home. Please respect my office space because it is my office and people don't realize that. And I'm sharing it with people. I don't like people put their foot on the walls. I don't like when people put their feet on the seat. I think etiquette wise, you see so many different personalities. I had to tell one girl, because, me and my mouth, I said, girl, do you put your feet up at home? She's like, I do. I said, well, not here. Put it down. We ain't doing that here. Okay. Like, come on. Don't do that. That is a pet peeve of mine, Michelle. Michelle.
Then I would definitely have
Girl.
been on your naughty list because planes put me to sleep. And so I've done so much long haul travel living in the UK for 10.5 years that like I just fall asleep. And so if I get a whole row, believe me, I am gonna curl up in a ball across those
Oh, I'm okay with that. I
oh,
am totally
I'm gonna
okay
take my
with that.
shoes off. I'm not a
It's
jerk
the
about I'm
feet
not a
on the
heathen.
wall. The feet on the wall. Like, why do they do that? I tell my, you know what? I become very motherly, and sometimes I have to scale back and be like, girl. But I try to be comical about it. I said, girl, you put your foot up at home. And she actually said, yes, I do. I said, well, we ain't doing that here. Okay. She was really nice about it. But that's what I would say because it is my office space, and people, ah,
Are
people are
not
messy, people are nasty. As many times as we come through collecting trash, even through COVID times, people are still stuffing stuff behind the seat back pocket, tissue, all types of stuff, their phone, their tablets, their water bottle. They put everything back there. That is the dirtiest thing on a plane. The seat back pocket. Michelle, I'm telling you now, as a friend, don't ever put your hands in there. Don't do anything. If you need to grab the safety demo, make sure you sanitize your hands after. People put all types of shit in there. All
I
types of
swear
shit in there.
there's all kinds of stuff like on
It
the
is the
internet,
dirtiest thing on the plane. Me as
dirty
a flight attendant, I don't even utilize it at all whatsoever. But that's because I'm working there and I know day in and day out of what I am seeing. Girl, just like the bathroom. People go into the bathroom with no shoes, no socks. I've seen piss on the floor. I've seen shit on the toilet. I've seen blood on the toilet. Why the fuck do you think you should be walking in there with no shoes or socks on your feet? And then when I tell you, oh, I'll just throw the socks away. What? You ain't gonna remember by the time you get off this plane, and you're gonna throw the shots in that dirty hamper like you didn't even walk on that nasty plane bathroom. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. That's why I'm saying respect my office space. Do I just walk into someone's office? Just think about it, Michelle. When you were in corporate, if I was just walk into your office just acting like I own the place, you'd look at me like, bitch, get out.
I mean, that happens more often than you would think. But I did look at them like, "Bitch, get out," even when they were my boss. That was always a pet peeve of mine. People just wander into my fucking office to get chatty. Do I strike you as the kind of person that wants to be chatty at work? No, I do not. Like, everything about me is, "I'm on the clock." No.
Mm-hmm.
And yet no, I feel you. So, okay, complaining about people being gross aside, I wanna talk about a different kind of gross behavior. The media tells me that as a flight attendant, you spend most of your professional life dodging games of ass grab with either asshole passengers or pilots. And they're two separate things because one is a coworker situation and one is um, a uh, a customer situation. We had the Me Too movement. Theoretically, we're all a lot more enlightened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Theoretically, companies all listen to women more.
Yes.
Ha First of all, is it true that that's a big part of what you have to put up with? And then second of all, has anything about your options and engagement and how all that works changed since Me Too?
I personally have not been affected by anybody grabbing my ass intentionally. Now, we all know that aisle is very tight. I
Yes.
am a naturally petite girl. So have someone unintentionally with an arm, with a leg, or when I turn to get a drink, yes. And immediately oh my God, I'm so sorry. So very apologetic within seconds.
Mhm.
So just having it happen in a gross fashion, I personally have not experienced that. I've heard of stories from other flight attendants who've experienced someone grabbing their ass. Um,
But that's
One,
already different from what the media says, because the media said you've been in the industry a long time.
mhm.
According to the media, like, you should have thousands of stories of this happening, and so that's already really interesting that that's not actually that makes me feel better about mankind.
Okay. Yeah, it's not, no. I've been in the industry now over actually 8 years now. So quite
Okay.
some time to be able to talk about it. The 8 years I've been doing this, I've never had my ass grabbed.
Okay. What
So,
about other types of, like, "Hey, baby," kind of, like, even if it's not physical, the, like, come-ons, inappropriate, etcetera?
so I would say about one trip, I've had someone make a comment at me, but not in an inappropriate way.
Okay.
I, okay, so how can I explain this so it doesn't sound like I've had guys approach me respectfully to tell me either how beautiful I am or you have pretty eyes or you, and that's it. Just one flat comment, and they're not gawking. Even if they are staring at me throughout the plane, either I don't realize it or they're not doing it in a thirsty, nasty way where I'm like, oh my God, I feel unsafe with this guy. I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to do anything because this guy just makes me feel uncomfortable. I never had that happen. Um, the only thing we as flight attendants, I will say collectively as a group, whether it's men or women, I mean, we are in an industry where it is more female saturated than it is male saturated, but from both sexes, we don't like when we're on the car or if we're walking by and people poke us. That is one thing people will do is they feel the need to poke, like,
Yeah, like, "Hey," like, to get you,
yeah,
like,
like just like, you're walking by Michelle and I'm in your office and I'm like, hey, Michelle, like, don't do that to me. You can either say, excuse me, put the call light on. That's what it's there for if you need me, but don't walk by and just poke me. That we don't like, especially when we're on the cart. And
mhm.
that's when we get poked the most is on the cart. They feel like they need to poke us, and I don't like that. Just excuse me is perfectly fine. We can look, but don't poke. That is one thing we do deal with. It's so
But
I
that's
wouldn't
less of
say
a
ask
sexual
me.
harassment, that's just people are jerks and
Yeah,
don't.
that's it. So I would say with the sexual harassment for me is it's zero because I
That's
have
awesome.
not experienced it.
So that's so interesting because that's one of, like, the big stereotypes about your industry is that that's a big part of what you put up with. And then there are other stereotypes as well
Hmm.
about flight attendants that are not very flattering. Um, I mean, you've seen the same movies and TV shows that I have, right? Where all flight attendants are basically sleeping with half of their passengers and the pilots, and, like, it's this rolling party of drugs and all that kind of stuff. I know you enough to know that that's not you, but I also know that your babies are old enough to have seen some of those movies and that sort of stuff themselves. How do you, as a woman and a mom, deal with that being the stereotype that's out there about what you do professionally?
So from a female standpoint, is that still going on? Yes, it is. Are flight attendants and pilots still sleeping with each other? Yes, they are. Are flight attendants sleeping with passengers? Yes, they are. Because obviously we're in an industry where we have to be made look our best, and we're constantly walking down the aisle. So people are going to be looking, giving our number, whatever the case may be. I love my industry either way. And I come to work very presentable. And I know, I mean, call me conceited, but I know I'm one beautiful bitch. And I'm probably going to have somebody make a compliment at me. And I embrace it all. But like you said, Michelle, I don't have time for that shit. And I think from just my body language and how I am, people will tend to know how to read me.
Mhm.
So if I had to say, I think it all depends on how the energy the female is giving out. Because and first of all, I'm in a relationship. So I'm not putting myself out there that I'm available and I'm going to be sleeping with anybody because that's just something that I'm not doing. I'm just not doing that. Does it happen? It does. But I still appreciate my job because it's happening in every industry, more so in my line of work because we have that stigma put on us. And I think it started from back in the day,
Yeah.
from like the what, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. I mean, they were like spot on, like those flight attendants. It was like it's kind of like the European airlines. You know how like everything is perfect to the T. I feel like with domestic airlines, that's not the case. Some of us come to work looking like ragamuffins. And I'm looking like, girl, you could have ironed that or you could have did something to that. But to answer your question, as a mom, my kids have never, I guess I make, they're about to be 13, 14, so they probably wouldn't ask me that question. I know they've seen some things, and as the years go on, they probably will hear some stuff, but it doesn't worry me because that's just not my nature. My friends, my kids, my family know who I am. So even though it is still a thing in the industry, it doesn't change how I feel about my workplace or my job or what I'm doing or what anybody has to say, because I think it's a very small conversation.
Have you had many people when they hear that you're a flight attendant be like, "Oh,
No, it's
are you
actually a lot more positive.
okay?"
Actually a lot more positive. So positive to the point where, Michelle, I will not wear this uniform to the grocery store. I will not wear it out at all. Not because I'm ashamed, but because I don't want to talk to you about my job when I'm off of work. Okay, it's great when we're on the aircraft and we're having a conversation, but when I'm at the grocery store and trying to buy my groceries, I don't want to talk to you. Sometimes I'll just take my emblem off because they just see a uniform, so they don't know what the uniform is representing. So I'll take the emblem and the scarf off, and
Mhm.
they don't know what else to think because I don't have anything to represent the company. But outside of work, I because I don't want to have a conversation because it's either a conversation about pay, a conversation about the places you go, a conversation about, oh my God, how cool is your job? And I love my job and it is cool and I really, really do appreciate it. But when I'm at the grocery store trying to get
You just want
apples
some
and
bananas.
oranges and
Yeah,
bananas and meats, I don't want to talk about that, you know?
I agree. I agree. So as soon as people hear that, I'm a career coach and a resume writer, like, it's not as bad as being a doctor where somebody's like, "Oh, can you look at the thing?" But, I mean, it's up there like, "Oh, well, I have a question," because everybody has a job, right? And I'm like,
Girl, if you tell them you were the director of HR, that would open up a whole new can of worms.
believe me, I've had that title. I know, Shirley. Like,
Yeah,
so yeah,
you
so no,
because
and it's like, I don't have anything visually to signify. So I get it. I get it. So when people come up to you in the produce section and say, "So you're a flight attendant. That's great. How much do you make?"
mm.
How do you respond when people ask you how much you make? You just
You caught me by surprise because I don't say anything to them. I
okay.
will say, I'm not going to talk about my pay. It's not about the pay because, first of all, I will not have a conversation with a stranger about how much I make. Now, my family has asked me about my pay, and I haven't told them because even if I've told my family the dollar amount, I always have to tell them I don't typically work. The average person is working 160 hours a month. That's before overtime. That's not what I'm working. There are some flight attendants that do 160 hours a month, but on average, I'm working 100 hours a month. We also have a per diem rate that is applied, and we also have other rates that is hard to explain. Like when you have a job that's a 9 to 5, a per diem job, a part time job, you have a flat rate. And then you know what you're going to make if you do overtime, and that's it. it's a little more complicated with our job. We do have a flat rate, but we have a per diem rate, and then we have a few other rates because also if you work internationally, the per diem rate is different. If you're working purser, the rate is different. If you're working position one, the rate is different. Depending on the aircraft, if you're working in the back, then you have an additional rate. So there's a lot of additional rates based on the position that you're working. So I will tell people what I make an hour because I have no shame in that. And I'm talking about when I say people, close friends or family, if
Yeah,
they
yeah.
ask. Strangers, I don't get into them. I say the pay can be a little complicated. Just know I don't work 160 hours a month like most people do. I only work 100 hours a month. But remember, I'm away from my family. I'm
Mhm.
working 95 hours this month. I have 7 trips. They're all 2-day trips, but I'm away. I'm away from my family either a day, or most likely it's a day or the whole 2 days. Because prime example, I have a trip on Friday. I leave early Friday morning. My check-in is at 5 a.m. My check-in is actually at 4 a.m. because we depart at 5 a.m. I'm gone all day Friday. I don't land till like 9 o'clock Saturday night. So by the time I get home, it's almost 11. I'm gone for the whole 2 days. My job is just so different. It's not your normal 9 to 5.
So how do you handle that as a mom? Because that's a lot. That's a lot for your babies to be used to. That feels like, that's a lot of sports events missed and band concerts and all of that stuff. And I know that you're passionate about being a great mom and great wife and all that first. So
Mhm.
how do you make that work?
It was hard at first when I first started because I had to get acclimated to the job. Um, when you first start, you're on reserve. And what reserve is, you're paid 75 hours a month and you're on call for the whole month. So that was a little challenging. I can definitely tell you with this job, you need a very good, strong, supportive, understanding system to back you up, rather it be the father of the children, rather it be auntie, rather it be mom, rather it be cousin, rather it be a friend. It doesn't matter what title that person plays in your life, but you need a good support system because you need someone that can either take the kids to school, drop the kids off at school, take them to practice, pick them up.
Mhm.
If your flight is delayed, it doesn't happen much in the career, but Michelle, I've had trips. I was on a 3-day trip that turned into a 4-day trip because guess what? We all know airline issues happen. Planes have mechanical issues, delays. Just like it affects the passengers, it also affects us. So when that happens, if the company cannot get us back to our home base or home that day, then we have to stay additional night in whatever state that we're in. And that's happened a few times, not a whole lot, but a few times. So I need to have someone that I can immediately call
Yeah.
to tend to my children. So, in this line of work, typically someone who works a 9 to 5, you have a lot more control when it comes to daycare or when it comes to having to leave work. You can realistically, truly be a single mom in a healthy fashion working a 9 to 5. In this industry with little children, no way motherfucking possible. You need a support system. I'm telling you now, if you want to go into this industry and you have kids, it's feasible, it is possible, but you need a good support system to back you up. You need someone that you can call that's not going to bitch at you when you're all the way in Chicago and you have to tell them, hey, listen, my kids need to sleep tonight. Okay, no problem. You need me to take them to school in the morning or wherever the case may be. You need that because it's
Did you
hard.
know that when you started out? Like, did you sit down and have those conversations with your support network and be like, all right, mom or best friend or whoever, here's the deal. I really want to do this, but I'm gonna have to lean on y'all, and this is what that can look like. And they were like, "We love you, Shirley. You're in," or did you find out the hard way when it was too late?
So, other than hubby, I have my mom and my aunt. My aunt is really his aunt, but I have those 3 people that have been 100% supportive the whole entire career. What these 2 women have told me is, Shirley, when it comes to your job, we are there for you and we're going to do what we can. But please remember, we're not raising your children.
That's fair.
And that's exactly what they told me. So they let me know, we got you. We know you need the work. We know your job. We understand it, but don't take advantage of us.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. So they have been, other than hubby, of course, which I'm not counting him because he's kind of part of the whole,
He made
crew.
them. So I feel like,
Yeah.
you know,
So my mom and aunt, they have been like our number one supporters with me being in this industry, because without them, I don't know what I would do. There are situations where it's like, oh my God, the kids got to go to school. And I had to call them, and, I had to quickly make arrangements. And because of them, it worked. You don't need a whole bunch of people, but you just need solid people by your side.
so I had a question and I forgot it
It's
completely.
okay.
I know. It was probably a really great one too. That's probably why I lost it immediately. So I would think that some of those phone calls would happen like at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning as well. So that's really
No, no, they're normally during normal hours, because if our schedule is interrupted in any way, shape, or form, we know as early as possible. So, like I said, it doesn't happen often, but when it has happened, I knew I can immediately make those phone calls and get the kids to where they need to be. This year, these last few months, February, and as we end the year, has been phenomenal because my kids are still virtual. They decided when it was time to go back, they wanted to stay virtual, and they are doing great. Like, they are kids that work very well. I'm so grateful and thankful because they work very well virtually. Their
Mhm.
grades haven't dropped at all whatsoever. They love their homebodies like their mom, I guess. So they've been home, and they're old enough that they could stay home an hour or two. So it's been phenomenal.
So what am my question? So I did remember my question.
Okay.
It, when you're leaning on your support network that much, and you said like your mom and your auntie are like, don't take the piss. Like we're here to help for work. For me, when I go through periods of needing to lean on people for stuff,
Hmm.
so my go-to outside of me and Hubs is my BFF.
Gotcha.
And if I have had to ask her to help with stuff because the boys were homesick, or like there's been times where their school got closed
Hmm.
because of COVID or what have you, and I still had to work, and she's dropped everything and come and watch them. It then makes me feel like I can't turn around and ask her for the nice to have stuff that I would have before, right? Like, "Hey, I'm about to kill my kids, so we're gonna go for the weekend somewhere else. Can you come and watch my horrible children?" And she would be like, "Yes, that sounds delightful." But when I've had to lean on her for stuff that's a have to have, I
Mhm.
don't feel like I can necessarily do that for the nice to have. How do you do that? Because yours is like an ongoing need
Yeah.
that way, but you still need to get away. You still need time to reconnect with your husband and get out of the house and away from the kids. So how do you deal with that?
So I have to say, grandmom is phenomenal, because grandma, she really truly never says no. I have to be the one to really say to my mom, okay, you need to scale back. When the kids were younger, to be honest with you, I have to say, Michelle, I'm so blessed because I haven't had that issue. I had to be the one to be like, okay, because of work, they've done enough. So now I need to figure something else out. And because I use those two for work a lot, I may have like a backup support system, like a friend that I can be like, okay, you know what? Khalif is going to go here and Kalia is going to go over here, and they're going to be with their friends. That way it gives grandma and auntie a break.
Gotcha.
I don't feel so bad because I don't use those other support systems, because I do have others, but they are on like my back list. They
Mm,
are like, to give grandmom and auntie a break, I'll use that support system. But that's because we have other family members and friends in the area.
gotcha.
There are certain people that you don't have any family in the area.
Yeah.
Then you have to rely on friends and hope that your friends are trustworthy.
Yeah, that's so scary. I as a mom, like I just can't imagine. I am not like a typical helicoptery, like, I know I'm a white, bougie, older mom. I get it. Like, I understand what people
It's
assume
okay,
about my
girl. You
demographic.
ain't nothing about you bougie. Wait till they listen to your episode. Ain't nothing about you. You may look bougie, but you ain't bougie.
I tell my sister you said that, Shirley. So my sister says that I officially uttered the most bougie sentence ever said to a toddler when I told my then 3-year-old son, "Magic, if you don't finish your lobster, you can't have your Egyptian treats." And she was like, "For real?"
Really? Your Egyptian treats. Is your sister opposite of you?
Oh, completely, completely. Not be more opposite. My sister is definitely in the ghetto end of the spectrum. It was hilarious. We went to my nephew's birthday party, and my
Mhm.
sister lives in a ground floor apartment. My son had never been to an apartment before. And
Oh.
so we went to my nephew's birthday at my sister's apartment, and we were outside playing in front of the apartment, and my husband was sat on the stairs, and my son went, "Daddy, I want to go to Hayden's upstairs now." And he was like, "Buddy, he doesn't have an upstairs." Magic was like,
Oh.
"There's the stairs right there." And he was like, "Yeah, buddy, that's somebody else's house." He was like, "No, Daddy, that cannot be his whole house."
Oh, that is so cute. You know what? The innocence of children, though, I'm telling you.
I
And that means you need to get your boys out. They
It
need
does.
to go to your sisters more often so they can
They
experience a different lifestyle.
That's exactly right, and we're working hard because there's a lot of privilege checking for my kids, right? Like,
Okay.
so we get it, we get that, but yes, I cannot wait to tell my sister that I've been officially declared not bougie.
No, I don't think you bougie, girl. I mean, ain't nothing bougie about that because that conversation we had, that's not a bougie person. Because you know, a bougie person wouldn't be having that. Oh my God, I can't talk about
Uh,
that.
but so and that's people see me, hear me, that kind of thing, and assume things about me, and I am not that way with my kids. I am definitely the let them go, fall, get
Mhm,
covered in mud, eat a bug, great, works for me.
mhm, mhm.
Don't care. Like, I am not the mom that needs to micromanage and control every single thing about my kids, but at the same time, it is really scary to me, the idea of trusting people with my babies. Like, there's a difference between letting my babies hurt themselves, screw up, that sort of thing, and trusting other adults that I don't know that well. So, like, the whole making friends and letting them stay with other people, like, I struggle with that, Shirley. I'm the one everybody comes here, I'm like, "Why don't you we have plenty of room. Your kids are welcome to come and spend the night."
Michelle, I know how you feel because my kids, I was very skeptical about them spending the night, even at either one of their grandmom's house. I wasn't down with that at all. I don't know who coming in and out. It took, I think it was until my daughter did stay the night at a cousin's when she was 8 months old, and I knew the cousin, and cousin is actually auntie's daughter. Very similar personalities, strict women. Like my aunt, for example, I know who comes in and out of this woman's home, and she does not play. She is like me. You here uninvited. I don't even understand why you here. Like, this is the type of person I like. The people who just kind of like, come in, come all. Those are the people I'm like, no, I'll wait till my kid could talk before my kid goes over there.
Well, my kids definitely talk. Talking is not an issue. My children are very good talkers. Dear God. But they're still little. Like, they would be easy, they can't take care of themselves. Like, they're 2 and 4, so, like,
I know two is little, even though they can talk. Two is little.
yeah,
Two is little. Four is little. When I say talk and can really tell me a full story of what we're talking about, five, six,
I
seven,
get
eight.
lots of
That's
stories.
what I mean by
No,
talk.
I have no shortage of stories. I'm gonna
Yeah.
record a story from my kid and send it to you, and you will hear the level of story I get from my children. Alright, so we're gonna go back to you and leave our children for a second. Um, I try to leave my children whenever possible. Um, one of the things that your industry is famous for is being they have a reputation for racism. Big one. That the picture perfect flight attendant is skinny blonde with perky boobs. That does not sound very much like the beautiful woman I have in front of me. So talk to me, do you think it is just an unearned stereotype? I mean, historically, it's not unearned, right? Historically, it was literally the policy.
Yeah.
So is it totally different now? Do you think that is a thing of the past? What's your take on that?
For the company that I work for right now, um, American Airlines, as you know, we merged because I originally was hired with US Airways and
Okay.
we merged a few years ago, became American Airlines. Um, it was a thing in the past, as you say, because as you know, I mean, I think the first black flight attendant, oh my God, I should know the date and I don't. It was either in the 50s or the 60s. They hired the first black flight attendants when flying had been going on since the 20s.
Mhm.
So that was
And they
only
didn't hire
not
a lot of them.
no,
Like,
very
yeah.
I mean, she was the first, and I don't even know how many after that was hired and what were the intervals. Was it every 6 months? Eh, Who knows? I didn't do the research, but that was only a few years ago. I mean, that's not long ago. You're talking about 50s and 60s for the first black flight attendant to be hired. So the industry is definitely drastically changing. For the
Okay.
company that I work for, there is an extreme amount of diversity. And I'm proud to say that Doug, our CEO, does a phenomenal job in trying to make sure we stay diverse as possible as a collective unit from Black people, white people, Muslims, African, not African Americans. What's the word? God damn, I lost the race I was trying to, but all
Label.
ethnicities,
Yeah.
sexualities, even with our uniforms. If a male identifies as a woman, you can wear the female uniform. You could wear the dress. You could wear the skirt if you wanted. And I've ran into a male flight attendant with the dress and the skirt on. So that diversity is changing drastically now in 2021. And in the company I work for, I'm very proud to say I'm happy to be able to see that. There was the last safety demo that we had. I don't know if many people remember it, but there was a Hispanic looking woman on there. She was transgender, but of course you wouldn't have known unless you're with the company. So the diversity is coming out. And I'm happy to see that. Even now on the aircraft, when they have pictures of flight attendants, you will see black, white of all different kind, black people of all different kind, different color, different ethnicities, Muslim women with their
Mhm.
the
Good job.
hijab on. So it is changing, and I'm happy to say that I'm with a company that is really truly embracing the change. Of course, I cannot speak for another airline, but
Mm.
with the company that I am with, the change is consistent and it's happening and it's accepted.
Well, I think that's so important, and that makes me feel great because one of the things that I talk about a lot in my space is there's a lot of companies right now that are a lot of this,
Mm-hmm.
all talk and no action when
Yes.
it comes to diversity and inclusion, right? Because that's the big thing.
Yes.
Everybody wants to say that they're very, diversity focused, blah, 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 but then they don't want to do any of the work.
You're right.
So I'm really glad to hear that other than photo ops, which
Mm-hmm.
are frankly cheap from an organizational perspective, right?
That is cheap. Yeah.
Putting a picture of a brown person on the side of your plane and being like, and now we're done. No more racism. Solved. Like,
No.
it's not that easy.
No.
So
Exactly.
I'm glad to hear that they're actually like doing more than that, and there is more engagement and that sort of thing. So that, and I mean, would you say that one of the complaints that you hear in other industries is that it's easy to get in the door if you are from a non-white male cis hetero background, but in the door is not up the ladder. Would you say they're doing more in terms of promoting people from diverse backgrounds? Are you seeing more opportunities for moving up for folks like that? Are there initiatives around that?
From the corporate standpoint, I can't speak of that because I am not in corporate enough to to know what they're going through in corporate. But from the in-flight part of it, as a flight attendant, knowing that if I wanted to move up, so as a flight attendant, you do have an option to move up as a supervisor if you wanted to. And there are a lot of African American supervisors within our, so at the airport, we have like hubs, offices where we report to that if we need to take care of something or if we have to do something. Because again, with the flight attendant, I just recently, within the last, like I'll tell you, my last supervisor, I don't even know what he looked like. Yeah, I don't even know what he looked like. I know he was a white man, but I have no idea what he looked like. This supervisor, I did see him because he had came down to the aircraft and introduced himself. But the last supervisor, remember too, I was out for 7 months. So that time that he had came on, I didn't really have an opportunity to meet him because those months were taken away from him since I wasn't there. This supervisor, I recently met him and I had to engage with him because there was something I needed him for, and he's black. He's a black man. So, yes, I see it in the in flight part of it, moving up. If I wanted to become a supervisor, I'm not worried about the color of my skin is going to hold me back. But I also have been the type of person, call me ignorant. We live in a racist world, and I'm fully fucking aware of it. As a Haitian woman, as a black woman, I'm fully aware. We live in a racist world, but I know everyone's not racist. And I can proudly say not every fucking white person is racist. It's just there are just fucking awful people out there, Michelle. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Awful motherfuckers living on the face of this earth. But I when I went for a job interview, as you say, I went in there proud, looking my goddamn best. And if you didn't hire me, oh well, then it wasn't meant to be. I didn't think like, oh, it's because I'm black. That's why they didn't hire me. It's because of my skin. But I don't think like that. There are some people that do think like that. I mean, I've been in the military, I've worked at the hospital, I am now a flight attendant, I'm a licensed realtor. I don't feel like I've had a fucking issue.
Okay.
But I know some people always like to put the race card on shit. If I felt like I needed to move up, I don't feel it would be a race thing. In the line of work I'm in, like now I say I cannot speak from corporate
No,
because
no.
corporate is all the way in Texas. I'm in Philadelphia. I don't know what they're experiencing in corporate, but for the in-flight standpoint, from the flight attendant point of view, if I wanted to move up as a supervisor, I can. Our base manager is a black female. So this is why I think in
It's
being in Philadelphia, like I see the black people moving on up.
you can only speak to your experience, and it makes me happy to know that at least one black woman out there is not feeling like that everything is holding her back, right? That your experience is that there's opportunity, that you can grow as much as you want, and I think that's amazing. So
That's
that
my
makes me
personal
happy.
viewpoint. Yeah, like I'm gonna tell you from an HR director, and I think you can understand. I've had people ask me like, "Oh my God," one verbiage I can't stand is, "What did you do to get that job?" My mind immediately goes to, "Well, do you think I slept with her? Do you think I got sexually involved?" I put my best foot forward. And I think it's just an ignorant question to ask, what did you do to get that job? Because I think they don't know what else to say.
Mhm.
You know,
Well, it's
I
an
read
aspirational
the
job.
qualifications as long as they applied to me, I applied. That's what I did. If they felt I was a good fit, then they contacted me. this is how this shit works. I try not to be so like abrupt and aggressive because I know it's going to be like, well, Shirley, I wasn't trying to say all that. But your question is just stupid. What do you mean? What did I do to get the job?
I applied.
Yeah,
Applied.
you know, and then when you say that, they're like, oh, and then, oh, here, can you get me in?
No.
No, because I can't replace you for the interview. I can maybe refer you. Maybe that's what you're trying to say. I can refer you, but they still need to contact you if they feel as though you're a
It's still
fit,
going to be you that
and
shows
you
up.
still
And that
need
doesn't
to
seem
go
like
to the interview. Yeah, I can't replace my face with your face, and we can't do all that. You still need to put your best foot forward. That's one of my pet peeves when people are like, how did you get the job? And then I want to go into like, what the fuck is the problem? Do you feel like I don't fit the qualifications for this job? Why ask me a question like that? But that's my little rant.
you're hilarious. Well, my dear, I have loved this conversation, and I think it has been really enlightening about your world. We are out of time, but before we go, you have an amazing podcast. Tell us more about your podcast.
Oh, my podcast is called Femme Palais Podcast, which I know a lot of people mispronounce it Femi Palais. Sometimes they say, which is okay. But anyway, my podcast, we focus on anything that has to do with the relationship, whether it's romantic or platonic. We talk about infidelity, sex, self care, couple situations, single situations, being a mom in a relationship, anything that falls under the category of relationship, which is large. Because remember, regardless if it's romantic or platonic, even a relationship with your friends matter.
Absolutely.
So definitely check us out. You know,
I will have links.
Michelle is on season 3, and we're talking about sex in a relationship that's coming up in a few months.
And there's going to be a special guest appearance from somebody else on this podcast. I will put all of the links to your show. Thank you so, so much for your time and for sharing your story. I have learned and enjoyed the whole thing. So you're amazing as always. Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Have a great day.
Bye. You've been listening to Hey, I Want Your Job. For more information on how you can get your own awesome job, visit ONH Consulting at www.onhconsulting.com. We offer incredible resumes, no nonsense career advice, and real world tips for landing a job in today's market. Check us out on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Insta for more insider information. Soon, you'll be hearing us say, I'm Michelle Olivier, and hey, I want your job.